Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Jaivardhan Singh, and I am your English language trainer. Today, I've got sore throat, but as we say, where there's a will, there's a way. So we'll carry on with our English language learning series, which happens every Sunday at 11 o'clock in the morning time. And today, we are very fortunate to have with us Miss Lasya Priya Kandukuri from University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And the topic is very interesting today. We are going to talk about bridging cultures, an American experience with an Indian twist with Miss Lasya. And she is a person of Indian origin. She's a student thriving in an American university. She brings a unique perspective on blending cultures. She will share her experiences of navigating the American education system while staying connected to her Indian roots. This talk will explore the challenges and joys of cultural integration, offering valuable insights for those balancing diverse backgrounds. Don't miss this opportunity to learn about the beautiful confluence of American and Indian cultures through Ms. Kandukuri's journey. So, everyone, please join me in welcoming Ms. Lasya Kandukuri. Welcome, Ms. Lasya, for especially for accepting our invitation to be a part of this discussion. So I welcome you, and I welcome everyone who's there has pulled out time for this wonderful Sunday session. And just to let everyone know that ma'am is going to talk about her experience, and she's also a Hindi learner. She speaks Hindi as well. In the end, we'll open the session after ma'am will have spoken for everyone, so that if at all you have questions to ask to her, please feel free to ask those questions to her. Over to you, Lasya ma'am.
Good morning. Hello, everyone. It's very exciting to meet all of you. I can't imagine, what questions and all you have. So I'm very excited to get to our Q&A. I think it's a beautiful thing that American English is something that can bring all of us together because, obviously growing up in America with surrounded by English all the time, I don't find anything very I've lost a lot of novelty in English. I don't think it sounds so special or anything. Like Hindi feels that way to me always. It feels like such a special, beautiful language to me. Um, but I really love that because you guys are learning English. We can all share this hour together.
Right. Yes, thank you, ma'am. I'll move ahead with some questions that we have for you. So this is our every Sunday we all assemble and we talk a lot in English. We discuss. This is the third we'll call it the third session in our series, and the first two we just recently started. But the enthusiasm that we see among all the learners is marvelous. And with that, I would like to ask you that if you could talk a little bit about your background and if you could introduce yourself so that we get to know as to how you're connected to the Indian roots and what has been your journey this while.
Of course. Um, Again, thank you guys all for coming and being here to listen to me. I was born in 2004 in New York to Hyderabadi parents. Both my parents and their families are from Hyderabad. My dad came for his master's in 1997, and my mom came when she got married to him. So I was born in America and raised in America my whole life. But I'd been to India like on different summer trips, like maybe 3 or 4 times before this, for the whole summer sometimes or parts of the summer sometimes. And that was always very special growing up. Before coming back here, right now I'm in Jaipur, but before this, it was 5 years since I'd seen India, 2019. Um, Regardless, we speak Telugu in my house, and we grew up with Telugu film and Hindi films. So I was constantly surrounded by what I felt like was India in my house growing up. So it's really, yeah, I guess like inside my home, I've always been in my mind, like in an Indian experience, and then going outside of the home as you grow up and spend more time independently in the world, you have to find a way to congregate these two worlds that you see and find an understanding of them for yourself. So I think that's a very individual journey, and every immigrant or Indian American or child of mixed origin like has to figure it out for themselves what where they come from means to them and how they intend to make that part of their identity. Uh, but I mean, growing up as a child, uh, being sort of forced into something that made me different from a lot of my peers, it was easy to resent a little bit where you come from or feel a sense of shame for it. But I'm I'm 19 years old now, and it's been a long time. And I've come to realize that everything in my life, everything that I love, everything that brings me joy, somehow traces back to where I come from. So I like to think that we share more than we have.
True, true, absolutely. I think you beautifully put across the fact that in your house you always had that Indian influence with the movies around and the kind of ambience that you had. So if you could tell a little bit about the Indian culture that you experienced all by staying in the US and in your family, especially with the influence of Bollywood, how has it, sort of got you rooted in the Indian system even when you were so far away? So if you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think I'm like a very filmy girl because I just grew up all the time with Hindi movies and Telugu movies more than, I mean, I didn't have any English media until I was probably in like later in my elementary school years. Like I distinctly remember being like in middle school, like sixth grade or something, and hearing my first like English song that my dad played, and I was like, whoa, like this is crazy. Because before that, I mean, it was only what my parents showed us, and they weren't showing us anything English. It was actually the first English song was "You Don't Know You're Beautiful" by One Direction. Um, and my parents showed us that when I was very young. But I mean, before that, we spoke Telugu in my house growing up, and both my parents. Forgive me, my voice is a little weird right now, but we speak Telugu in my house, and both my parents speak Hindi as well. So we were obviously surrounded by Hindi media, Hindi songs, Hindi movies, the industry. My parents would speak in Hindi to each other when they didn't want the kids to understand. So that was kind of how they intended to raise us. But obviously, since we grew up exposed to a lot of Hindi, I got to have an understanding of that as well. In my early childhood, it was the best way I can explain like the division between the culture inside my home and outside my home is because the only place I heard Telugu and Hindi would be inside our house from our TV. I couldn't tell them apart. I would have to I would have to think, wait a minute, so if Shah Rukh Khan is in this movie, then it must be a Hindi film because I couldn't tell you which language was which because the only place I'd gotten either was inside my home. Um, so definitely very core memories growing up as I learned to distinguish American what I saw outside the house from what I saw inside the house, and then what I saw inside the house had its own distinctions as well. And it's sort of a little bit of a lonely learning process to consolidate all this information as someone who you don't have someone else to share like a similar experience with. Obviously, my parents in some degree could relate because they're in a foreign country, but they at that point didn't have to find what was American about them, find what was Indian about them, and sort of build themselves up from there. So it's a very independent experience for sure.
Right. Very interesting. The way you mentioned that there were two worlds, one within your house and another world that was outside the house. So you were trying to balance the two, and you were trying to see it how it would shape your personality as well. So we are very intrigued to know, Madam, why what was the reason for you to the India calling and coming to India and this whole experience as to what was that urge or that longing or that yearning in you that sort of got that kind of connection still alive. So if you can tell a little bit about that Indian arrival, how did you arrive in India then, or on and off you have been traveling?
Yeah, so this is when I was really little, I was a kid. I was pretty ungrateful for like when my parents brought us to India for the summer. Like as a little kid, I mean, I in my mind, I was just going to stay in the house all summer, and I couldn't go outside anywhere. And all my friends were in America. What was I gonna do here in India all summer? Well, everyone else had fun, over there. So I was like, oh, like dang it, like I have to be in India for the summer. This was when I was very, the first couple times I can recall coming to India. But there's so much joy in finding community I'm almost very grateful I didn't have growing up because I can find so much joy in it now. When you're in America or like in a place that's a PWI, a predominantly white institute, or in any sort of space where you don't see yourself always in the people around you, there's like as an Indian family, like we found so much joy in just seeing like a desi name in like a credits. Be like, oh my god, like that's, oh my gosh, that's a Patel. That must be, oh my god, like this guy helped make this movie. Yes. When we saw any Indian character in any TV show, whether it was a good character, a bad character, an ugly character, and they were mostly not making beautiful Indian characters at the time. They're beautiful, ugly, whether they were villains or heroes. Just seeing any sort of representation when we were outside and we saw like an Indian store or like just like everything felt like such a beacon of, oh my gosh, home, beacon of home. What the hell? Like, and so when I'm in America, when I'm in India, it's really beautiful to me how much this feeling has stuck. Every time I'm out on the street, I still feel, oh my gosh, everyone is Desi. Everyone knows me. Everyone knows where I come from. Because when you're in America, you don't have that privilege of everyone knowing where you're coming from. Like, for example, my little brother's name is Narasimha, Sri Narasimha. And all of you know where that comes from, most likely. I don't have to be like, so Vishnu is an avatar. Like, I don't have to start from anywhere. Most of you have some sort of reference, obviously, for who's shot, maybe who Narasimha Swami is, or I don't know. I can make that assumption being here in India. I have to start from the most base levels of scratch in America, explain to anyone anything like that. I mean, it's just a completely different feeling of being known when someone can understand where you're coming from. So I get to cherish that feeling so much being here in India. Sometimes I'm just in a restaurant and I see a couple Indian, they see people walk in and I'm like, oh, like there's some more Indians. Like, it's lovely to me. It's so lovely. And
True.
it still gets to me. And
Right. No, very interesting because you rightly mentioned about the Indian connection perhaps that you have when you're in the US and you see an Indian name or you see any character in a movie and that sort of relates you to your home calling, your Indian connection, and whether the character is beautiful, ugly, or for that matter, that's a villain or a hero or the main protagonist. It doesn't matter to you. Your Indian connect makes a lot of sense for you. And similarly, when you're in India, you very in a very fascinating manner you say that you're drawn to the Indian people, and you don't have to explain yourself because if you talk about your brother's name, so Sri Narasimha, everyone has an idea about it. So that already developed connect is there. So that draws me towards my next question. That how much do you think is has this importance of staying connected to one's root even when one is not in his or her own homeland? So that connectivity, how does it really shape one's personality, and why is it so important to stay connected when you are not in your own country, even
I
at that time?
one time a friend of mine mentioned that my friend who's a black man, he said there's a black man who wrote this. He said that he, no matter how difficult it is to exist like in a place that's not his homeland, he would never want to be anything different because everything he finds joy in comes from being black or from that identity. And when I first heard that, I didn't understand it. I was like, okay, like what does that mean? Like I don't know, like there's joy in everything, whatever. But I can understand with such clarity where he's coming from now because everything I find joy in traces back somehow to how I understand it, which traces back to how I was raised somehow or where I come from. I think it's very difficult for someone to know me, to truly know me without knowing where I come from. And so, and very immediately, everyone from India has an incredible advantage in that case. And that's not just something that you see in conversation. It's like an immediate sense of intimacy, at least on my part. When I was in America and I meet like other brown people, oh my gosh, like we understand each other. We understand where each other comes from. Obviously, you can make that attempt and learn about people, but that's completely different from just, oh my gosh, we know all the same Hindi songs. We know all the same actors. We know they have probably a very similar understanding of, I don't know, our country, our religion, it's very just, it's beautiful to see yourself reflected. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. I think you bring a very interesting aspect of the fact that when you see people of different, same origin, you automatically understand that there's some kind of a common cultural trunk that exists. And we know the common actors, we know the common traditions, we know the common cultures. And even if we are poles apart in terms of our geographical locations, there's some common thread that binds us together. And that can be actually the starting point of any kind of communication, any kind of interaction with the other person. That takes me to another point that I would like to ask you. How do you see that? You are someone who is an Indian origin person staying. I mean, you were born in the US and you have lived your life in the US. So, do you see? Because you talked about cultural identity, Lasya. So, how do you see your own cultural identity? I mean, do you because you relate so well, you are so fluid in terms of personality. In India, you're an Indian. When you're to the US, you're like a US person, American person. So do you have that fluidity in your personality? Does it get developed over the years, or how has one got to manage it? Or does really one find a struggle as to know where my home is, who am I, what am I, what my cultural roots are? So is it can be as complex as not knowing who you are, or to the fact that someone who's so fluid can easily understand and can mingle with any kind of situation that is proposed to this person. So how do you see that whole thing opening up for you?
Wow, beautiful question. I mean, this, like I said, it's a very, very independent journey, an independent experience for every child of immigrants to like consolidate the two worlds that they see, or more worlds that they see, right? Because to my parents, no matter what, I'm always going to be an American girl. I mean, no matter like, I mean, I can be as Indian as like as anything. There are enough differences that they're going to think of me as an American girl. When I go outside of my home, is anyone thinking of me as American? Oh, they're thinking everyone sees me as an Indian girl. I see myself as an Indian girl. And I guess accurately, we're all balance of some balance of Indian Americanism. But let me think about this. So your exact question was how
Yeah, so the question is that do you find that fluidity, that adaptability in your personality that you have seen over the years, that you being an American person, but you have your Indian roots, you're not born in India either, but however, you have that connect. So how do you shunt between these two personalities? And is it really, really easy for you? Or at times it really gets you pondering to the fact that who am I? Or you have found a balance for yourself and you have found a response to yourself, because generally that's what we see for people who have that kind of a connect between two cultures, very strong two cultures, and they kind of move between the two. But of course this movement is something positive that I'm talking about. So how do you cope with it? How do you manage it? When you're in India, you're completely Indian person. When you're in the US, you are an American person. So you are at ease with that kind of fluctuation and a change, or do you find it challenging at times when you're in India? You don't know how to adapt in the situation, and vice versa. So
so
how do you cope with that?
it's actually almost, I would flip what you said. Rather than being like being someone who's in the middle of two worlds, as I'm sure in some way most of us feel that we are. Um, Being someone who has to exist between two worlds, it's much more genuine. It's much more of a genuine feeling to try and be the same person all the time. Like those two worlds have to exist in you. You can't just be a different person in one place and another one in a different place and pick and choose the person you're going to be and act like. You have to sort of find a way to be at peace with the person you've become and carry that with you wherever you go. So I want to feel like the same person, whether I'm in India or America. When I'm in America, I want to feel that, hey, that time in India was not a different version of me. That was me, and it stays with me, and that is who I am. And vice versa. I mean, I can't lose certain American things when I'm here in India. And I mean, there are little American values like a pressure of a larger emphasis on individualism or certain freedoms like in clothing or like of girlhood, that I think those are probably predominant ways that Americanism sticks with me. Um, and American culture sticks with me. But apart from that, I would say that everything that I feel um, that is rooted in myself as an Indian person, I think I would like to think it stays with me wherever I go. I don't think I'm less Indian when I'm in America. I just think, I mean, you have to balance all the worlds and be the person that you're required to be at that time. Um,
Yeah, right. Beautifully said. I think one should understand how to balance the situation and one's personality at the same time. Because yeah, please carry on, Miss Lasya.
just one more thing I wanted to add. So
Yeah, please.
I said that I have to be an Indian in India or an American in America. But in conclusion, like I think because we try to be both of these things always, I end up being maybe a little bit of an American in India and a little bit of an Indian in America, but it has to be the same person. So
True, true, true. I think being a little bit of American in India and vice versa, it does good to you. Does it help you somehow? Do you find that you're connected still, you are distant because you can see perhaps the society with a different vision if you're not totally into it, because at times it becomes difficult for us as well. We being totally soaked in the society, we cannot have an exterior vision of it when we are into it. So if someone like you comes and tells us, oh, this is how it happens in your country, then we are like, oh yes, that's true, but we never saw it because we never had that kind of an exterior opinion about the same. Do you think that you being in India and still being a little bit of that American person, that helps you to understand things in a better way, perhaps through that perspective?
I mean, I can't lose where I've been raised for 19 years. I mean, no matter wherever it was, whether it was the moon or Trinidad or China, like if you can't, like you were there for 19 years. That's the society that your childhood was in. All of your memories were founded in, your friends and your slang and your external cultures. Like I mean, I can't just drop it off at the airport, when I come. Uh, so definitely, if you guys, if an example is helpful, for example, in America, a huge people the general idea around like the culture of clothing is that people should dress for themselves, right? That's kind of a Western ideal. Maybe people should wear whatever they want, whatever they feel best in, and everyone should just be fine with that because it's clothes and it's them and it's individuality and it's expressiveness, self-expression, and people value self-expression and individuality so much in the Western world, right? um, and I could have told you this maybe before coming to India, but after coming here as an older version of myself than I was when I was a kid, with more freedoms, I see how much, or at least like older generations, or how much people here dress for society. My grandfather, like, I would wear 3 necklaces, and my grandfather was like, absolutely not, can't wear 3 necklaces. You have to dress for society. You have to dress for, so people don't look at you weird. You have to dress for this, that, and I know he's coming from a place of love, and I know he only wants the best. But obviously, for me, it's just so far out of that American ideal that I can't understand that. Like, why would I dress? Why would I wear one necklace because society likes one necklace better? I, but I mean, that's just again
True,
like as we feel, as we can these two worlds within ourselves, we have to just navigate these little things. And there's something
true.
that you can, and do some things you think, hey, this is a part of who I am and this is how I'm going to work around it, and some things are like, I can drop this off at the airport.
No, no, absolutely. I think you rightly mentioned about the fact that one has to navigate between the two cultures and the two worlds in a way that you make a balance, and you would live up to your expectations, what you expect out of yourself, and with the expectations of the others around. So, because when you talk about the American approach of lifestyle, perhaps it is more towards an individualistic approach, wherein I dress for myself because that's what I feel good in. And in India, perhaps it's the other way around. Of course, there are people who dress for themselves up as well, but at the same time, we largely dress as per the occasion, as per the society's norms and other traditions as well. So you juggle between the two and you somehow strike a balance between the two. The beautiful example that you quote about wearing 3 necklaces at the same time, but then you sort of make a balance and doing in the right way, appropriate way that would be appreciated by the society at the same time. So in the similar manner, Lasya, did you find other examples where you thought, oh, there are certain things that shocked you? There were some cultural shocks in India that you felt when you came for the first time, or maybe even in your daily life, you find that something that perhaps used to dazzle you at the initial part of your journey, now you have accustomed yourself, or something that you still feel has not yet gotten into you, and you still find little alienated by that fact, something that amazes you still in India.
I might have to think about this one a little bit.
Okay.
Culture
Yeah,
is
cultural
that
shock, because you talked about women and the dressing style, and perhaps certain other parameters that are different from the American society. Of course, every society is different, and we are not comparing the two. We are not being judgmental about it, but just that someone who is from America and comes to see certain Indian practices, which may be different from one's own homeland. So, how does that make a difference in one's understanding?
I'm trying to think like from an outside perspective now. Like as you said, like if an American were to come, like what would
Yeah.
shock?
Since if nothing is shocking you, that means you have completely absorbed everything and you're at ease with larger part of the existence of people in India. Is that so?
I had before, so I feel like I had a pretty good understanding of what life like would what life would hold for me here. But I'm trying to think like if I didn't, like what would probably shock me. I mean, like I said about clothing, I think it's
Yeah,
pretty apparent about that like most younger people, specifically like women in our generation,
yeah,
like do their best to dress for modesty, for safety, for the people
yeah.
around, not cause issues. And that's like, and that's not a bad, I'm not saying that's an evil practice or anything like that. It's just what the
Right.
society,
True.
um, but it's just, yeah, like I would tell any American coming here, like you need to definitely more than you have in your life before, more than you ever thought about in America. You have to be thinking about what other people will be seeing. You can't be going out in your pajamas, your
Yeah.
shorts, like I don't know. It's just you have to keep in mind what is considered out of the ordinary here. Uh,
True.
and I would think like I think like just in some ways like street side culture is very different. Like
Right.
here, if you're a young girl outside, you're gonna get stared at. You're gonna get people are gonna smile at you. People are gonna act weird towards you, and you have to sort of get used to that and figure out how to navigate that. I knew what to expect coming here because unfortunately people were really weird when I was like 13 years old in India. So I mean, and I think any American coming here, I think Indian American in particular, their family will do everything and knock it into their head, like, you know,
True,
yeah.
true. And coming to the question of living in joint families, big families, how do you see that? Because I mean, in America also, perhaps you being from the Indian origin, you have that kind of an experience. But with your friends and your colleagues in America who have like perhaps nuclear families or small families, and when we are all living under the same roof. A lot of arguments and a lot of love and everything, just showering and pouring together. So, how do you see that kind of a balance that happens in the Indian families, which perhaps is not the case in the American, typically American families? So, how do you see that kind of a difference?
No, I absolutely love like I my parents both grew up in Hyderabad, but when I grew up there was no family, none of my cousins, no one was near us. So it was just me and my three siblings. And thank God we didn't have a very tiny family. But I was always very envious of the way that both my parents grew up because my dad grew up with like six, seven, eight cousin brothers and sisters, and he told me about all the mischief they did and all the fun they had. And I think, wow, like that sort of communal love in our house growing up. I in the ideal world, I want to like definitely raise my kids closer to the way that my parents were raised with maybe with my siblings' families around them or their cousins around them or grandparents around them. Because we didn't, my grandparents, when I grew up, my grandparents were in India and our family was here and our cousins were in the UK or in India and my family was here. So it was difficult to find family where we were. But I think I would love to provide that accessibility
Right.
for it. I think it's a beautiful.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I think coming on to your love for Hindi language, because we saw in the video that you had shared across. In the end, you were talking about Hindi as well, that you speak Hindi. So we would like to know a little bit about this love of yours, as to how it got into existence, and how have you worked on this skill of yours, and how do you see it unfolding for you in the days to come or in the years to come?
So it's actually really ironic that all of you are learning English because I'm here in Jaipur studying Hindi. I only got to start studying Hindi 1 year ago in my university in America, which I had no idea was possible before, like before going to university. And I mean, that opportunity completely amazed me. Um, so I had to take advantage of that. But I grew up with surrounded by Hindi songs and Hindi movies and Hindi media, and it was just a language that we didn't actually speak in my house, so I never got to fully grasp it. But it was always the most romantic, the most beautiful, most loving language to me. It's softest, most. It holds so much magic to me, and I'm so envious of all of you that speak it so fluently, because I think there's just so much beauty in any language spoken fluently, especially Hindi. Hindi above all of them. I think it's just wonderful. So yeah, I
Thank
hope
you.
summer, I have
No,
improved.
that impresses us so much, your love for the language, our own mother tongue Hindi, because larger part of the audience, they speak Hindi over here. And what an exchange that you're here to learn Hindi and people are here to learn English with you. So I think that that can be such a beautiful exchange. So we definitely, put across your the questions, if at all, after the session. Also, there'll be questions that will come to us. We'll direct those questions to you, and later on, you can still be connected with all our learners here who want to enhance their English speaking skills as well. And we have traveled halfway of this session. Now, I'd like to open the session for everyone because I don't want to be the only person who talks with Lasya. I would like to pass on the chance to everyone. So, everyone, if at all you have any questions, please feel free to ask her. She's one among us, she's one like us. So, don't feel at all hesitant. Do not feel intimidated at all. Unmute yourself, give us your name, and ask a question. Please raise your hands, and please let us know if you have any questions for Lasya. Should be more than happy to respond to those questions. Anything you'd like to ask her? Meanwhile, they are trying to create a question for themselves. I have a little question for you, Lasya, because we in India we speak English, and you've seen American English because that's what you are totally soaked into. So, what difference do you find when you listen Indian people speak English, and the kind of differences in the pronunciation part of it, or the usage of words, the sentence construction, or maybe for that matter, some kind of vocabulary that is used differently in the US and in India. So if you can give us a little idea about that, because that would be very interesting for us as well.
Yes, I don't think there's anything like I would never say anything about Indian English is wrong. I think it's a different version of English. I think it's completely valid. I think, so many people speak it. I don't think there's anything actually wrong about it. It's just Indian English and it's different. And I have a very deep love for that as well. But I mean I can give you the most like apparent is the direct translations from like Hindi or like other languages. Like people in Hindi say kya Rathore, like, is it painting? And that's what people say when they say it in English. They say, is it painting? Which technically, it's not wrong, right? Like, your hand can be painting, technically, but no one in American English would say that or has ever heard that. When I came here, I was like, wait, that is a little different. Like, even though it makes complete sense to me and it gets the point across, and grammatically, like, there's nothing that's like, this is wrong. I mean, just no one would say, is it painting? Because it's a direct translation of a Hindi phrase. Because in America, we probably say, does it hurt? Is it hurting? Not kya Rathore is the pain.
True. Exactly. No, that's fascinating because we have our Indian brain and the Hindi thing that goes in our mind, and we try to translate everything from that Hindi aspect to the English aspect. That's true. So maybe is it paining? क्या आपको दर्द हो रहा है? So exactly, that's like the paining is like something which is present continuous, some kind of sense that gives to the other person about whom we are really concerned. So I think, does it hurt? Is it hurtful for you? So that's true. That kind of transition happens only when we start activating our English brain with the passage of time and a lot of vocabulary. Yeah, that was a beautiful example. I think that would be setting everyone thinking that, yeah, exactly, the literal translation should never happen. But that's good. Any other example, Lasya, that you have to put across, or anything that you came across and you found, oh wow, that's in the Indian system. Of course, what you rightly mentioned is we are not being judgmental about the language. Indian English is as good as British English or American English. So we all have our own ways to say. But yeah, something that is totally incorrect, that is something to be worried about. But otherwise, if it makes sense and larger part of the audience understands it, and in the Indian community we understand it, and that's how we say, is it paining? No, it's not paining. So if that makes sense, then it's absolutely okay. But yes, when we are having an intercultural communication, when we're talking to people across countries, yeah, then it does make sense to be really correct. So any other observation, Lasya, that you have seen with your Indian experience?
It's actually what growing up, I always say off the light, on the lamp, like stuff like that. And I don't even understand what's wrong about that. I can't tell. But my friends in America, they'll be like, it's turn off the light or something. I'm like, what? I don't get it. But I think that's like some derivation of Indian words or say like band karo, yeah. I don't know. Like I don't know. But people like I don't know. I don't understand. I can't hear what's wrong with it. Like even me. But my friends will like everyone in America will be like, no, it's just wrong. Like it doesn't sound right. Like you have to turn it off. You can't off it. But I think you can off it. I like see because I'm so used to it. I can't hear that it sounds wrong. But I guess there it does too. Like traditional American English speakers.
True, true, true. So turn it off and stop saying, "Can you off it? Can you on it?"
I
So right, right, perfect. I think very interesting examples. I think as English learners, we all should pay attention to the fact that something that's being said by a larger community that makes sense, but we have to be aware of the fact that is it going to be used in the similar fashion in the other countries where English is being spoken. So I think that awareness should always be there with us. So something that's said in India is going to be said the similar way in Australia, in Britain, or maybe for that matter in the US. So we can make a little effort to check it. I think that always does good to us, so that we get to know, okay, no, I have to tweak it a little bit. I don't have to say the same way. I don't have to say, can you off it? Can you turn it off? Maybe if that can make more of sense to the other person. So that little hard work is needed from all the English learners, including me as well, because that's what we are all delving into. We all are learners, and we are trying to make most of your presence, Lasya. So thank you for sharing those wonderful insights. Meanwhile, if there's anyone who has been able to sort of get a question framed in the mind to ask to Lasya,
Oh my
anyone,
God.
please feel free. Yeah,
It's also
anyone.
like
So,
learning.
yeah,
I I mean, there's little things that make sense to us as English speakers in direct translation, but then our teachers will be like, but this is not how people say it. And we're like, no, why? But
right. Totally understand what you go through is that the similar fashion that we go through, like you would say something in Hindi with your English brain on, and you would sort of make a sensible sentence, but in the end, it's correct grammatically, but it doesn't make sense because it's not the way it is said in India, perhaps, right? So that's something that's disheartening, but that is not discouraging at all, because we move ahead with that. So something that is wrong helps us to at least travel halfway, and then we correct it, and then we move to the right direction. So that also makes sense. So I see a hand raised by Mr. Ritik Jain. Yeah, Ritik, over to you. Please unmute and please ask your question.
Mm. Hello, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And yeah, first of all, I would like to thank to sir. It's a great opportunity to meet with such spiritual and such a fantastic person. Thank you so much. And I want to make some interesting here, sir, if you don't mind. I have a challenge for Lasya. I have a challenge in Hindi actually. So
Okay.
I hope you can do it very well.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
Let's see what
And
the challenge
whereas
is.
I know your soul is Indian and you are very connected to Indian culture and Indian uh, uh, philosophy, so you are very connected to Indian culture also. I think so. Your maybe grandfather or four grandfather, they were Indian.
both
I
my
think
parents,
so. Oh, your parents are Indian actually. Okay, yeah. So this game is like that. You have I'll repeat a I'll say sentence here first of all, and you have to repeat it. Okay, the same sentence. If you miss it, then you will be out.
ouch.
Okay.
Not out
Yeah,
of the
I mean to
meeting.
say,
You still stay
yeah,
here,
you
right,
will
Lasya?
lose. Yeah, you will. So your sentence is um, चंदू के चाचा ने चंदू की चाची को चांदनी रात को चांदी की चम्मच से चटनी चटाई.
ये क्या है?
That's a tongue twister coming your way, Lasya. If you
Yeah,
want to take that challenge, huh?
बाद में कह सकती हूँ.
yeah. I repeat once more. Okay. चंदू की चाची ने, you
की
can
चाची,
say it. चंदू
चंदू
की
की
चाची ने
चाची,
हाँ, चंदू की चंदू. ओके. चंदू के चाचा ने चंदू की चाची को.
चंदू की चाची ने चंदू की चाची को
ओके. चांदनी रात को
चांदनी रात को
चांदी की चम्मच से
चांदी की चम्मच से
चटनी चटाई.
चटाई.
Yeah,
No, no, no.
yeah, but okay.
एक और बार
It,
like do it
एक
again.
और बार क्या बात है, गजब. ओके, सो वंस मोर. चंदू के चाचा ने
चंदू की चाचा ने चंदू
चंदू की चाची को
की चाची को चंदू की चाची ने no is चंदू का चाची repeat it one more
चंदू
time.
या चंदू के चाचा ने
चाचा ने चंदू
चाचा
की
ने
चाची को चंदू के चाचा ने चंदू की चाची को
चांदनी रात को
चांदनी रात को
चांदी की चम्मच से
चांदनी की चम्मच से
चटनी चटाई.
चटनी चटाई. I
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, it was very good. Yeah, you
चांदू
can learn it.
Yeah.
चाची
Yeah,
चांदनी something चटनी चल
You can
Yeah,
do it one last time, Ritik, for Lasya, so that she can retain that phrase in Hindi, and that's a tongue twister, Lasya. So that will help you with the chill pronunciation, perhaps. Yeah, one last time, Ritik.
yeah. So चंदू के चाचा ने
चंदू के चाचा
चंदू
ने
वेरी गुड चंदू की चाची को
चंदू के चाची को चंदू की चाची को
चाची मीन्स आंटी
हाँ हाँ पता है मुझको
क्या बात है गजब आप जानते हो फिर तो हाँ चांदनी रात को
चांदनी रात को
चांदी की चम्मच से
चांदी की चम्मच से ओह सिल्वर स्पून से ओके चांदी की
सिल्वर
चम्मच
स्पून हाँ चटनी चटाई डू यू
चट,
अंडरस्टैंड चटनी
चटनी पता है चटाई का मतलब क्या है
चटाई मतलब खाना
To make taste someone, to
या
offer
टू
someone to
मेक
have a taste.
टेस्ट
Yeah,
टू टेस्ट या सो ओके
चांदू चाचा ने चंदू की चाची को चांदनी रात को चांदनी
तो
चांदनी
चांदी की
चटनी चटाई
चांदी की चम्मच से चटनी चटाई वेरी गुड क्या बात है
very good,
तो
Lasya. That,
या
thank you so much, Ritik, for that wonderful initiation towards the tongue twisters. I'm sure the same would be put across by Lasya to all our English learners, so that they can work on their skills as well. I'm sure Lasya, you'd be putting across your video of the same, wherein the little challenge raised by Ritik would be taken as a perfect challenge, and you would be doing the same as a video, and you'd post across. I've done it in the end, huh? Thank you so much, Ritik.
या थैंक यू
Peter
सर
Piper.
थैंk you so much
Thank you, and thank you for your kind words, because it's a platform wherein we all are exchanging, and the purpose is not to, tell this much is what I know, but it's the fact that we know, and we all have to work ahead on that learning skill. So we are again thankful to Lasya for her kind presence, and still the session is on, and if there are further more questions that we can direct to Miss Lasya for any kind of clarity that you would like to have about maybe the American part of English or her cultural experience in India and in the US, anything that intrigued you perhaps to ask her during her talk, then you're most welcome to ask her those questions. Please feel free. Anyone else?
Don't be shy.
Yeah,
Ask
please don't be shy. Please don't be shy. It's a very homely kind of an ambience that we are trying to put across, so that you be at ease, and that's the purpose of this whole talk. हम चाह रहे हैं कि आप ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा इनसे प्रश्न पूछें, and you unmute yourself, you ask her, and you be at ease, and she's of course a Hindi learner, so that's going to be a mutual enriching process for all of us.
आप सबने मेरी
uh,
अंग्रेजी सुनाई तो मैं भी आप आपकी अंग्रेजी सुनना चाहती हूँ
Yeah, we have Dr. Surendra Kumar. Yeah, please go ahead with your question or your comments, your input.
So my question is that what's the difference between Indian and American accent?
I mean, can you hear it? Like, I would say, what's the difference between the Indian and American accent? I mean, it's not. I don't know how to point out exactly what sounds it is. But I guess maybe you said, no, like the way I said, Ritik said opportunity. I don't know how. I can't. I'm really bad at replicating the Indian American English accent. Actually, my sister is very good at do all of these accents, but I can't exactly imitate the way Indian English sounds. But the best I can do is probably just give you something to compare it against. When you hear me speak, do you hear like the difference in certain like sounds in particular? Like we have less. English contains less like diversity in those sounds we hear in Hindi. But people try to put like, I mean, obviously familiar sounds where they see it, but it just takes listening to. That's all. Are you guys able to distinguish like the way they sound, or are you still working on grasping the way these British English versus American English versus Indian English sounds like an accent?
Yes.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Yes. Well, we do have these kind of exercises last year wherein we try to show as to how things are said by the Indians, of course, that's what we say, then how a Britisher would say, and perhaps an American person would say. So the way, the example that you raised, like we largely in India would say opportunity, and perhaps an American would say opportunity, right? So these kind of changes we try to incorporate when we tell people on working on their accents. So of course, there's no wrong about saying, opportunity, There's
Yeah.
nothing problematic about it. But of course, if you want to narrow yourself towards the American part of the pronunciation, you would go to opportunity.
Yes.
So
The O is like it's Boston.
yeah, like opposite and opposite. So that's how we would say. We in India we would largely say, my house is opposite to that place, or opposite the bank. But perhaps in American version of the same, it would be opposite the bank. My house is opposite the bank. So opposite, perhaps. Yeah. So we do work on these kind of little things that can actually make a bigger impact when they are done continuously, and they are really fine tuned and they're refined, and one is conscious of these changes as well. Thank you, Riddhi, for that question. Of course, you're working on your skills as well. We see it. So great. Bravo, and keep it up.
Could I just tell one more thing about me?
Yeah, please tell us.
I also speak in American accent.
Great. And your experience of doing that, Riddhi, because you have had the chance of living in the US, is that so?
No, not actually in the US, but I was in Germany actually.
All right. So you got a chance to interact with the people who spoke English and were not Indians, right?
Yeah, mostly.
Mostly. I think that makes a lot of sense because you were open to these kind of changes, and your listening has really improved many folds because of that, and you sort of picked it up from there, and then you can see it totally.
Yeah.
Great. So
Thank you.
congratulations, and wonderful. Okay, thank you so much. Furthermore questions, before I pick individuals' names to ask questions. Should I do that kind of an activity? I've got a sore throat. Come on, students, please help me to ask more of questions to our expert, Miss Lasya Kandukuri, and she is there for us. So anyone, please feel
Really
free
great
to
to,
unmute.
it's really great to meet
Yeah,
Miss Lasta today because even the dress she's wearing, it's more like Indian. She's living in US right now, but like we can actually see that she's more connected to Indian culture and
yes.
all.
Uh,
Thank you, Dave.
uh, that was Bhavya, right? Bhavya, that was you. If you could just talk about yourself a little bit.
Arya.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's Arya. Yeah, that's Arya. So she's also a very keen learner, and she's always there, very active in picking up languages as well. So we're fortunate to have such motivated learners, and they're a part of this whole process as well. So thank you, Arya, for that beautiful, point that you have made, a compliment that you have passed on to Miss Lasya Kantukuri. Thank you. Furthermore,
Deji, I don't think we can hear you, or at least I can't hear you. Hello? There we go.
I believe the
all right. So yeah. Please, yeah. There was a little technical glitch at my end. I got disconnected. All right. So, any furthermore questions? If you have, please feel free to ask. Any challenges last year that you face in terms of your Hindi learning? Perhaps if you can talk a
Uh,
little bit about that, because we would relate to those kind of challenges when we learn English. So we can actually perhaps propose you some solutions for that, or maybe that can be taken up as a joint task from both the parties.
I think like what is a big challenge in learning Hindi? I mean originally like a big I feel like my reading has improved a lot because I used to not be able to figure out based on hearing like what was the like versus like versus like versus like and now I feel like most of the time if I hear a word I could kind of spell it mostly correctly most of the time. So that was a big challenge for sure, specifically the four does and the four does coming into Hindi. And being in India has been super helpful and like said like something just clicked and now I can actually hear when there's a amatra and when there's not, and it feels so obvious to me now, but it never was. Like I used to like put amatras where they weren't and to like not have them where they were needed. I used to spell my own name without the amatras, and now I'm like, yeah, they definitely need the amatras. um, so I think spelling was a big challenge for me, and I think being like that constant exposure definitely really helps. So if you guys are struggling with spelling at all, like know that if you get a chance to be in an English speaking country or just like read a lot of English, just that kind of exposure will definitely help it click really quickly. It definitely really helps. So don't get discouraged. That click is coming and you'll feel that improvement for sure. Another big struggle in Hindi is like postpositions and obliques. I don't know if like these are terms that you guys would be familiar with, not being people who had to learn Hindi, but it's very complex, and that complexity is really what makes it so beautiful. So I have no beef with Hindi in that regard. I'm always very happy to learn those little details, no matter how frustrating they can seem when you're learning them. Like the differences between when you use like a verb with like se puchna, se milna versus like ko deka versus I don't know, like like these little I'm having
Right.
trouble thinking of like ka intezar, ki madad. Like you just have to just get that in your head. There's no like, oh, all of these verbs will have only ka, and all of these verbs will. Sometimes you get like a little feel for it and that intuition, and like that's just a work in progress for all of us who learn any language, to keep working on that intuition of speaking. That's the biggest thing.
True. I think the challenges that you're facing may not be absolutely at all for us because that's our mother tongue. But then similarly, we struggle at times in English with especially the prepositions or some kind of phrasal verbs which have to be used in a way that cannot be done other way around. It has to happen in a specific way. The syntax of certain constructions have to be followed the way they are. So what have you got to say on that, last year, when we see that there are a lot of technological developments that we see across, and still people are struggling to move ahead? So I saw recently a video that talked about that language learning is not a language problem, it's not a technology problem, it's a people's problem. So when we say it's a people's problem, it means that they are somehow missing out on their motivation, their encouragement. So would you have some kind of a piece of advice to all our English learners who are here? They might at times get a little, demotivated, a little hopeless with the fact that, oh, it's very tough, this language. So how do you keep your motivation up, and what would you pass on as a message to all our English learners?
So Hindi is a language that obviously I grew up with a lot of exposure to. So somehow I have developed an ear for, okay, this sounds right. This doesn't sound right. You know what I mean? But when I'm learning Spanish as well, so I don't have that with Spanish, not exactly, like not to the extent that I do with Hindi. And so when people tell me like, no, this just doesn't sound right, sometimes it's easy when you have that sort of criticism to be like, oh, like, why is it like this? Why does it have to be like this? Why does it have to be wrong? But I think it's just a point of acceptance, and you kind of don't have to, when you learn to not fight it and just be like, okay, no, this does sound right. Just go with it and like internalize all of I feel like every correction is really just, it's going to take your language to a different place. So I learning to accept like all of the little things and the vast majority of what there is to learn. I feel like I have a really big vocabulary in Hindi since I, grew up with the Hindi movies all the time in my house. Even still, there's a million, hundreds of millions of words I don't know. No matter how big your vocab is in any language, there's still so many more words to know and to need. And I guess in English, I don't feel that lack because I did grow up in America. I can talk about anything I need to in English. And you guys can probably talk about anything you need to in Hindi. But it's the other way around for both of us. When I'm speaking in Hindi, how could I not know the word for this? And it's just a process of time. I think it's a process of love and acceptance, really. Because when you have the language and you recall why you're trying to learn it, what is so beautiful about it that you're going for, it's a lot easier to put in the work, I guess.
Right, absolutely. I think very, very beautifully you have put across the fact that you have to be open to changes, because there will be people who will be more experienced than the learner himself or herself. And if they pass on some kind of positive feedback, it has to be taken in and it has to be worked upon. And that's how you would move ahead. For example, if the Indian people around you and they tell you, okay, no, Lasya, ma'am, it's not maybe some kind of preposition that's not right place, then you take it in your stride and you work on it and you move ahead. I think similarly with all the Indian learners who are learning English, if some kind of a positive feedback is put across, it has to be taken and in a sense of appreciation that there are people around to help me and to make me walk this path in the right direction. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much. Yeah.
In America, not everyone could tell me what's right and what's not, what word is for what in Hindi. Like I have to maybe just go to my Hindi professor. No one else around me would know. But here, when I have like 9 teachers to tell me what's right and what's wrong, every day I have like my host family, every day anyone can tell me, nope, that doesn't sound right and that does. That's such a advantage and a blessing for me, really. Try my
Absolutely, absolutely. No, no, I think such a fascinating thing you are saying, that it's such a blessing, because when people are around you who are trying to correct you, I mean, in this world, if the people there to correct you, what more can we ask for? So I think that's always a blessing, and that's a blessing as well that you are here with us, because everyone got a chance to speak to you, to listen to you. If there are no more further questions, what I could do is that I've got a set of 6 words that I would quickly just put across the screen, and we'd ask our learners to just speak them out, to pronounce them, and we'll see the pronunciation from Lasya. The American pronunciation, they're very simple words, but the Indian struggle is that we always shun between the American pronunciation and the British pronunciation, and we sort of, everything suits us because it's the Indian English in the end. So, but still we have a little penchant, a little inclination towards the British accent, because that's how, the whole system has been. But with a lot of technological innovations and a lot of influx of people from American part of the country as well, and so we see these changes of words. So I would like to put these words, and we would see as to how our Indian learners who are there in this group are going to speak them out, and then we'll take the final pronunciation from Lasya. So I'll share my screen, and I'll quickly show you these words. I'm sure you all know these words. They're not very tricky. They're very simple words. Um, I think my screen is visible to you. All right. Is my screen visible to you? So not Lasya, but everyone else, if you could just speak that word out for her.
Schedule.
Schedule.
All right. Any other ways of pronouncing the same word? Anyone? Then we'll ask our expert to get us this word in the American style, perhaps. Anyone else?
It's
But
schedule
just a
in
little.
it's schedule in British and American. It's schedule.
All right. I think the answer has come already. So thank you, Jayaditya. Yeah, Lasya, if you could just put some clarity on that about
Yeah,
this word.
very, very close. I think that sounded just right to me. We say schedule.
Okay. Right. So in the American style, as what was said by Jayaditya, that schedule is what you would say in the American part of it, and if it were to be said in the British part, you would say schedule. All right, quickly moving to the next word. There are not many words, don't worry. So the next one. So any guesses, students? I'm sorry, I think it did not go to the next one. Just a second. Um, I'll do it this way, perhaps. You would tell me if is that visible to you?
Still on schedule.
Oh, just a second. There's some technical thing I need to do. I'll stop sharing. I'll reshare. I'll first go to the next word, and then I'll do that. Perhaps that would make more of sense. Up, up, up. All right. I hope this one is, yeah. All right. Yeah, dear learners, quick
Vast.
pronunciation.
Wait.
Vast ways. Okay. So we are getting to pronunciation. That's great, because that's what we are actually struggling with, struggling, or we have a choice. Rather, I'll take it in a positive sense. So any clarity on that, anyone? Furthermore, we can look for the right answer, or there's no such right answer as such, but then the American style of saying it. So Lassia, if you could help us with the American style.
Yeah, this
Sorry, once again. Yeah. So did you get that, everyone?
No, sir.
Yeah.
No,
I
there
think
is
you.
network glitch.
Yeah, I
We
think there
can
was a network glitch. Lassia, could you just repeat once again for us?
it's a vase. We
It's
put
a
flowers.
vase. Yeah, true. Vase. Yeah, that's correct. All right, perfect. We'll quickly jump on to the next word, and I would open it up for you. There are 4 more, so don't worry. We'll just quickly look at them as well. All right, so this one is here on the screen. All right, dear Indian learners, quickly tell
Vitamin.
us.
Vitamin.
Vitamin.
Okay, vitamin, vitamin. So
So
yeah,
I have four
yeah,
pronunciations for that.
yeah. Please
So
go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
in Hindi books you will see vitamin and
Okay.
vitamin A. And,
Uh-huh.
and we were in seven standard science teacher used to pronounce it as vitamin, and then
Okay.
you can say is vitamins, and then you can see pronounce it vitamin also. So these are like
Vitamin.
four
Okay.
pronunciations I have heard.
Yeah, with the Indian one also
Vitamin,
included.
vitamin, and vitamin. So yeah.
Okay, great. So that's the variety that we have. So you have to pick one as per the American approach, Lasya. Which one would you pick?
Vitamin.
Vitamin. All right. So vitamin is the one that it goes for the American pronunciation. Nowhere are we trying to demean any other pronunciation. It's the way that we say things and we understand each other. That's what the end purpose is. But of course, you have to be aware of the fact that how it is said in different cultures. All right. Yeah.
Privacy.
Yes.
Privacy.
Privacy also. I think
Right.
privacy and
Privacy.
privacy.
Privacy. All right. Both
Privacy, and
pronunciations.
now I pronounce it as privacy.
Okay. So see, we Indians have this liberty of shunting between pronunciations, and we are always good with that because we have a wide variety of that. Yeah, Lasya, if you could help us with the American part of it,
It would definitely be privacy.
that would be privacy. Okay, perfect. And then going to second last word that I show you on the screen. All right, this is here on the screen. That's this one that you can
And
see right
with
now.
vase, like we used to pronounce it vase, and now it's
Yeah,
vase. Like
yeah. So that's true, Jaditya, that we have changed the pronunciation as we get aware of the pronunciation as well. Yeah, Pooja, you want to say something about this word? Pooja Rangadale, you would like to say pronounce this word for us?
Router. Route.
Route or route?
Route.
Route. Okay, you want to say route. Any other pronunciation, dear
Route.
learners? Route.
root, but we have
Route
heard
as
route as
as well.
well.
Yeah. So so we always drift between the two, right? We have route and route. So Lasya, which one is the American one?
You could say both in American,
Is it
guys.
okay?
Sorry.
All right. So route or route. All right. And quickly,
It's the same. It's the same with that router also. Some say router, some say
route.
router. So
Yeah.
mostly they say router.
Yeah. That's true. All right. And this last word for everyone, that's a PROCESS, which you see on the screen. How would you say that?
Process.
Process and
Process.
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 Process. Process. All right. Great. Yeah. Lasya. Once again. Sorry. Your voice is breaking. Could you repeat that, Lasya?
Of course. Process?
Process. Is that so? Process?
Yes. Process.
Okay, perfect. Process. All right, great. All right, wonderful. There was just a little idea to put across everyone that this is how we the Indians have such a huge variety of pronouncing things, words, maybe in the American style or the British style or maybe the Australian style. I don't know for that matter. We have our own Indian style as well. But the idea about all these pronunciation they end with the fact that we should be aware of the fact how it is spoken in the other country, and that awareness should be there. We are not being judgmental or we are being critical about any pronunciation. Yeah, Arya, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that like we Indians have got
Yeah.
a really good opportunity to switch among the pronunciations, like that is Indian, British, and American. Because most of the times in
Yes.
school, when I pronounce something different, then my friend would be like,
Yeah.
"No, Arya, it's not this, it's that." Then I'm always like, "No, today I'm following American English. The next day, if I pronounce it something else, I'll be like, today I'm following British. I just keep on changing." Then she's like, "Okay, very smart."
Yeah, that's good. I mean, you get to get a feel of all these pronunciations, and you can actually drift and move among all these kind of settings. So that's good, and that also helps you to
And
strike a balance. And
excuse me, sir, the same problem got with
yeah,
me
yeah,
many
Sapna.
times.
Yeah. Okay. So as in you struggle with the which pronunciation should you adopt? That's what you're talking about. That you always move between pronunciation. Is that so, Sapna?
Yeah, sir. Also, sir, in my friends is also saying like that. Yeah, this is not correct. This is not American. This is not UK, and you also not good in these accents. So yeah, this problem
All
same
right.
goes for me.
We understand the importance of this pronunciation part of it, but please do not discourage yourself. What we can say at the end of this session is that be open to listening to all these pronunciation, as what was rightly mentioned by Lasya ma'am. She says that have an exposure to all kind of videos that you could listen from the Britishers or the American people, and be aware of this is how it is said. For example, a word that was rightly mentioned, we would say opportunity and opportunity. So there's nothing incorrect about it. It's just the fact that you should be aware. The way Arya said that I know this is American style, this is the British style, and you pick up yours. So there's no judgment about it. It's just that you should be confident of what you are saying. And of course, the person that you're talking to, if you can switch over to his or her own pronunciation from that respective country, that makes more of connectivity. But again, it's your personal choice. I
Whatever.
hope that clears you. Yeah, yeah, Lasya.
I think it's very important that you pick the style of English that you find most beautiful and that you're most drawn to, and just adopt that into your own. There's no pressure from the outside that you have to say things a certain way or that Indian pronunciations, Indian English isn't correct. But I'm obviously knowing and having familiarity with the way it's said and all these things aid your confidence so much with anyone. I think that's really a wonderful opportunity, a wonderful learning opportunity.
Great, great, great. Thank you so much. I think that was such a beautiful statement at the end of the session, and that really gets us all going in this, in the sense that please pick it up, move ahead, just keep your hard work going on. I'm sure you will have beautiful rewards coming your way. So with that, we have come to the end of our session. I would like to deeply thank Ms. Lasya Kandukuri for being such a wonderful speaker for the session and for your wonderful insights as well, Lasya. They really touched us, and your Indianness and your Americanness, all that beautiful blend makes us truly, looking towards that global citizen. And all the dear learners for being such a wonderful audience and the participants for posing those questions as well. In the end, if you could just quickly put your cameras on, we can take a quick selfie, or not a selfie, I'm sorry, a quick picture for everyone so that we have a little memory for all of us, if at all, if it's possible for you to put your cameras on. So I'll take a quick screenshot of our pictures, if that suits everyone. A quick picture, if you could put your cameras on, everyone. We'll just take a little picture with everyone. If that suits you. Quickly, it'll be oh, I can see already the fireworks behind Lasya, ma'am.
I know,
Yeah.
right?
I don't know. I did see. So yeah, everyone, if you could just put, yeah, I can see you, Brad Singh. So it's a pleasure because otherwise we hardly get to see each other. So in this platform, if we can see each other and we can stay connected, and that's kind of a platform that we are trying to create for everyone. So I don't see many people turning the cameras on. Others, if you're comfortable putting them on, I'll take a quick picture and then we can have it as a little memory for all of us. All right, that's a personal joy. Not a problem at all. I've taken one. All right, so once again, thank you everyone. Thank you, Lasya, for your kind presence, and I wish all the best to every one of you, all the Indian
Thank you
learners who are
so much,
learning
ma'am, for your
English,
precious time. Thank
and
you so
also
much.
thank you, Sapna, and also thank you, Lasya, and best wishes from our side for your Hindi learning. And please do let us know if we can be of any help to you. Thank you.
So John, who's also learning Hindi. Woo!
All right, thank you. Take care. Thank you, everyone. We'll close the session now. Thank you. Thank you. Namaste.
Wish you the
Thank
best.
you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you.